get started. I'll officially call the meeting to order. It's 7:01 p.m. and we'll let the minutes reflect that all the board members are present, as well as some members of staff and some members in the audience, some we will hear from here very shortly. So we have two sets of minutes before us. The first one I'd like to tackle is the August 12th. The original minutes we held from our last meeting and asked for a few revisions to that. I would just...
I'll move the minutes of August 12th.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Quinn.
I'll second that.
And seconded by Paul Metzler. And Rob, maybe for the record, I think you're the one that had asked to have a couple of items changed. You want to just briefly highlight what those were?
There were just a few comments that I wanted to just kind of have clarified at portion on the stained glass distillery.
Okay.
When it came to actually the permit or what the liquor license allowed, and then food in relation to that. So Lisa did a great job just kind of going back through and clarifying that. So
Great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a motion and a second on that, and those minutes will stand approved now as revised. Thank you for that. And then we have the August 26 minutes before us. I'll entertain a motion of approval for those.
I'll move for approval of the August 26 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on those minutes? All right, seeing none, those minutes will stand approved as written. Thank you, Lisa, for that. All right, the August monthly reports, I know I've started to see those come in, and with my crack ace assistant, hopefully we'll be back next week part days, that I will have all of that information, so I'm not going to blow anybody in or call anybody out for not getting their monthly report in, which is officially due tomorrow. We have no public hearings this evening, and we have one guest, and I would ask Mr. Costello if he would tee that up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We have with us tonight Tracy Bryce. Tracy received a permit from the board a couple of years ago to operate her graphic design studio at 2118 5 Mile Line Road, and has been there successfully operating since that period of time, and would like to expand, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit about her ideas for expansion. So with that,
Okay.
hop in.
We just knocked some walls down to make the space bigger, so I have more space. I'm growing. I need more space.
And this is the area where Mr. Corletto was had his law office.
Yeah, yep,
So you're taking that area.
yep. And so I'll use that mainly as my office and have people enter in there rather than coming around to the front of the building. So I'm hoping to eliminate people coming into my production area as much as possible.
So the new main entrance will be off on 5 Mile Line Road.
Yep.
You gonna identify it as such?
I am. There's no signs identifying where to go in at this point, just because the one side door doesn't work. I'm supposed to get a new one. And so basically mostly everyone who comes knows, or I tell them ahead of time, just come around to the front.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't wanted to really label anything until it's all situated. So I'll have signs on the front door saying to use the side door.
A side door, there's two side doors.
There's,
but you're
yeah,
gonna say
yeah.
one's not.
Well, one will say on the delivery door, if someone's coming from the front, the delivery door will say this door's for deliveries, keep going.
Gotcha.
Going.
Yeah.
So,
Are you going to need any additional signage on the outside of the building, on the
well, I have no signage on the outside of the building currently. I may utilize the sign that's right above where the lawyer used to have a sign.
Yeah.
within that same space that the same?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Just pop
I've talked to
something in
the landlord, not Olga, but the person who's been sort of trying to take it over from Olga, about removing those sign faces so I could actually put a sign up, but I think I'll just use the existing one. I think they built the siding around them and they don't want to really deal with that.
And that requires a whole nother set of approvals, doesn't it? Jim?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
she'll submit a plan.
I'll
for
submit,
the
I'll
signage
submit
commission.
a layout before I go ahead with that, but it's gonna be a while. I don't have time to do anything for myself, so.
Do you have any increase in employees or anything?
No, it's just me. My son helps me after school. And every once in a while I have a little assistant who goes and actually runs errands for me. So I just, I can't really figure out where I need to hire someone. So I just haven't. I could use someone now.
Jim, are you thinking streamline?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds reasonable.
And did Jim explain to you our streamline application process, which basically is for business owners to kind of speed along approval, so we don't have to go through an entire formal process since you're kind of taking over office space for your own office space. It's a like business.
Plug in, plug out
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of.
you're basically taking
Yeah,
the
because
same-
I mean, it really is.
It's not like you're a hairstylist coming into an office. It's
Right,
different.
yeah, it's
the same-
definitely the same
yeah.
business. It's just bigger.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so as a reminder, it is a historical district. I think you're aware of that. So any painting of new doors, anything like that, has to conform to the Historic Preservation Board requirements. And so I'll ask you to work with Jim on that. I'd also ask you to work with Jim on any signage that you put in on the exterior so that that meets the requirements as well.
Okay.
Okay. And any other items, board, at this time?
Nope.
All right, and Jim, you'll prepare
Take care.
prepare a letter for the board that will be going out to Ms. Bryce on the expansion of the facility.
Absolutely.
While I'm thinking about it, parking, you're utilizing the parking in the back. That obviously has not been a problem.
No, I mean, every once in a while, there's nowhere for anyone to park, but for the most part, I don't have more than a person, 1 to 5 people coming a day, you know, and never really at the same time.
Mhm.
I use the delivery service a lot. That's mostly who's coming, UPS, mailman, delivery service, and some clients, but for the most part, I'm like a client at a time.
Okay.
It's not like a store where you're gonna have 10 people in there at once.
Right. Okay.
And that's what I've noticed too when I've been to visit you. I think one person max whenever we've been there, if that.
Yeah, there's been a few times where I've had a few and I get excited. Oh my gosh.
Do people do ordering online for you?
Mostly, yeah, mostly everything is done
Yeah.
through email. It's just,
Client account, and then you just kind of,
yeah.
Okay. Good. Anything else, Kaz, that we should have as part of the record?
I think that's pretty much it right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck on the expansion.
Thanks.
Yes, it's exciting.
Okay, then we'll move on to our action items. Our first action item is restaurant with outdoor dining and entertainment at 1440 Empire Boulevard. We had this before the board at our last legislative session. And with that, Mr. Costello, any additional items?
I received nothing from the applicant or from the public since the public hearing, so I guess if you're comfortable, I could prepare a resolution.
Okay.
Yes.
Ort, you good with that?
Yes.
Any, so when you pull that together, certainly the usual, the music aspect of that
Absolutely.
cause and everything like that. And if I
Music.
recall, it's 150 additional spaces.
151 parking spaces, they have seating for 140 on the site.
Okay.
So, and they have shared parking with Bezos as well.
Yeah, okay, this is the restaurant and the clubhouse,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Okay.
And then the 140 is considered all
All
interior?
parking, that's right.
No,
Or, I'm sorry, all seating, and as you noted.
Interior?
Yeah,
Or all?
it's all, because the way the building is designed, the windows kind of open up, so it's in and out at the same time.
Okay,
There's no defined seating for outdoor versus indoor.
okay, great. All right, so you'll pull some draft resolution together for the board to review. I'll give you those back
Thank
for
you
your
very
files,
much.
so that you have those.
Great.
All right, and we'll have that potentially before the board on the 16th of September. Okay, all right. We move on to our next item, and that is final approval of 10 residences known as Phase 4 of Abbington Place, 1229 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. And Jim, anything new by way of any submissions or anything on that particular application?
Nothing new to report. We've received nothing new from any of the neighbors or even staff. There were no comments from the PRC for this particular project, which is kind of unusual, but
You mentioned that at the public hearing.
it was a small addition to the overall development, so.
Okay, and then after this, there's 2 more phases, and what's the total after these 10?
I think he has about 29 or 30 left, something like that.
Okay, so, all right. Okay, board, any concerns, questions? Again, you'll do a draft resolution for that,
It will.
and then have that into us for consideration for the 16th.
Very good.
All right, that takes us to item number 3 under action, law and finance. That's amending zoning at 730 Linden Avenue. And I'll open that up for discussion by the board.
I kind of voiced my opinion at the last work session meeting that we had. I am not supportive of this application. I just don't think it's, the use of the space has some concerns of mine, along with the moving of some of the families out of there. I do realize and appreciate the fact that there's other available housing for some of the families, but as the project stands proposed, I will not be supporting this at this time.
Other comments, board?
No, I would agree with Andy. Obviously, one of my chief concerns from our last discussion on this topic was in reference to potential students and students that would be displaced through this. But I know after having or hearing the conversation from that evening, and thinking on it, I agree that it's probably not within the best interest to rezone. I think it's not within the character of rezoning. Moving from high density to high density, I think rezoning should be for something a little bit more intense as far as moving from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I agree with Andy that I'm not in favor of moving forward with the proposal.
I didn't have as strong reservations as Andy and Rob did, although it's clear that we don't have a consensus. So I certainly wouldn't want the applicant or anyone they have doing work for them to be misled that there is some sort of consensus and therefore spend more money and more time and effort if at this point in time what's come before the board appears to be not something that has the legs or the steam to move forward. So I think I would just note that clearly in our discussions that we've had some concerns, but certainly not a consensus.
Any other comments?
Just what I said last week, my concern for the rezoning, we don't do rezoning without a lot of thought to it. And to me, this doesn't truly merit what a rezoning in that area. I would see something more like if they were going to take the residential into the commercial, that's the medical buildings down the street, and to conform with what the rest of that street would, to me, be more of an appropriate rezoning. The rezoning that it is one kind of residential to another kind of residential. It's not strong enough argument in my mind to do the rezoning.
Okay, all right. So consensus not to entertain a rezoning application at this time.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Certainly, Mr. Morgan, I see, obviously you're here. If you'd like, I'll give you an opportunity
Yeah.
to at least make a comment, into the record on this particular piece of property.
Supervisor, thank you for having me here tonight. Geez, I'm disappointed that the board feels that way. I mean, we have a manufactured home community, and I've been in this business for 23 years, and this community is going downhill. I mean, you could check with the sheriff's office, and as far as crime and things like that are going on over there, I think that's one of the properties that they've been quite a bit to. They spend a lot of time at for different issues that pop up. We've tried our best. We've pulled out a lot of the junk that was in there. We've probably pulled out 50% of the homes and trashed them. We're down to probably 55% occupancy. I guess this is good for litigation because we are in litigation with the town of Penfield on the assessment. That's not what I want to do, but we're being assessed for an assessment that far exceeds the values of the homes. So, but that's, I guess, a private issue with the landowner and the assessor's office. What we want to build there is a Class A community like South Point, which we thought that would coincide what's there. Somebody mentioned something about density. The amount of units that we're building there are far below the density requirements that are required in the town of Penfield for multifamily. So there was plenty of green space there. So I'm just sure, I guess I'll go on record, saying all that. I'm just very disappointed that everybody's taking this position. I understand, you want to see medical or commercial space there. We haven't been able to get any uses for that. First of all, there's no exposure to that site really from Linden Avenue, so it's going to be very hard for people to know that there's buildings behind there, in the back there. So that's a hardship as well. Unless we buy Harper's community and, try to do something there, that's kind of where the exposure is, for that site. So that's kind of all I want to say.
And I would just respond, Mr. Morgan, I don't know if you heard what I said. I said there's not a consensus.
Yeah, no, I know.
A consensus is not everyone.
No, I get that. No, I get that.
So I want to reiterate to you, I didn't have the strong
Yeah,
reservations.
I saw
But I
it.
don't want you going through the expense if there's not a consensus at this point.
I can appreciate that, but I really can't stop because I'm losing money. It's a hardship. I got to get something going with this property. I mean, whether it's something else, we'll come back. Maybe there's industrial buildings we could put there. I don't know. If we try to get it rezoned, but there's no use for industrial because there's plenty of industrial space out there. So I'm not sure what we could put there. Maybe medical buildings. We'll talk to some of the brokers in town and see if there's a use for medical. But we are going to come back and prove that there's a hardship here, and it's not going to work as a community because a manufactured home community because the community is obsolete. The size of the lots don't work for the size of the homes that are being built today. And we are selling homes in the community at a very slow pace, like maybe 1 or 2 a year. And the only way we're selling it is we're taking back mortgages on all these homes because people can't get financing for these homes. There's nobody that'll finance manufactured homes anymore. It's a obsolete business. So, what do you do with an obsolete business use? You know what I mean? Something's got to change. Something's got to give. I mean, I don't want to be in litigation with the town over taxes, but the numbers don't work.
Right.
So certainly we can perhaps agree that what's there now is not working, but something else needs to.
Yeah,
Needs to move forward.
is there something wrong with South Point? That's the comparable product that we're building. That's on Empire Boulevard. I mean, I'm not sure why that doesn't work for that area. I mean, it's a residential area. It's manufactured homes. This is multifamily. This is Class A multifamily. We don't build anything under Class A. We were willing to pay for these tenants to move into down the road. We own Forest Lawn. We were able to pay for them to move there. We also have other apartment communities in Rochester and Penfield and other areas that we were willing to pay for them to move there. So we're trying to work with everybody the best we could. In the past, in other towns, we've been able to rezone industrial land for multifamily. and so forth. So, I guess we'll have to rethink this and maybe come back and talk again about this. I'm just very disappointed. That's the consensus, I guess, of some of the members. I'd like to talk to everybody if I could one-on-one to see what the problems are here, see if I could cure them, correct them. We're talking about we're talking about seniors as well that would move into these communities, because these are 3-story buildings and ranch units as well, that we could build there, and these attract seniors. They have elevators in them, and they all attract seniors. So maybe we can talk about this again in the future.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Costello and I will reach out and get some time to, get on the calendar for some broader conversations.
We can show you hardships on every component to this business that we're in there. It's just not working at all. It's a complete. We could show you financials. We could show you. Just talk to the zoning officer. He'll tell you what's going on there. It's a mess. The underground, it's 50 years old. It's a mess. The underground pipes and so forth. So, but thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. All right, we'll move on to informational items. The first informational item on finance. Mr. Costello setting a public information meeting, Bendel incentive zoning proposal at 1271 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road.
Yeah, so you had your discussion with Mr. Bendel shortly ago, and he has submitted a letter requesting that he be put on an agenda for a informal discussion with the board and the neighbors to get their feeling regarding his proposal. My recommendation would be to submit a resolution for next week, but not to have the public informational meeting until the 21st of October. The 7th of October is starting to fill up on you, and it wouldn't be fair to you, and it wouldn't be fair to him either to have to wait that long to go through, or the public that would be attending to go through a informational meeting that late in the night. So,
Sounds good.
Tony, this is kind of outside this particular request, but for the future, maybe can we change, when we talk about the informal meetings, maybe calling it a neighborhood informational meeting, because that's really what it is. It's, to let the people around the particular project or the proposal know what's going on. And my concern is that when we say public informational meeting, many people might get confused and just believe that is a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not really know the difference. And certainly I can understand if they don't know the difference.
That's a good
But if we
point.
just call it a neighborhood informational meeting, because that's really, at the
Yeah.
end of the
Or
day,
may not be
that's what
inclined
it
to
is.
attend until they see that it's a
Yeah,
neighborhood.
and that,
Right.
that the
And the
neighborhood
neighbors are gonna be
meeting
there.
is
Yeah.
an opportunity for the neighbors to come in and see what potentially could be there. I mean, I know the town doesn't take any position really at the at the informational meetings, because it's an opportunity for the neighbors to hear what, one of their neighbors is proposing to do.
Okay.
And I apologize, that's not,
No,
wasn't
no,
really a
that's-
part of this, but I think that it's worth,
Noted.
taking a look at and just changing that so that there's no misunderstanding with anybody from the public about a public hearing versus an information.
that is a good point. The way it's set up now, it says informal discussion meeting.
There, okay, that's
Is
fine.
that something you're comfortable
I'm
with?
fine with that. It's
I
just,
like having the word neighborhood in there though, because
All right.
like I said, I think some people are reluctant sometimes or nervous about coming, especially to a hearing or discussion. They feel they're compelled to talk. They don't have to say anything. And then invoking the neighborhood term in there may
Right, but at the same time, anybody could speak to it. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
anybody that's a resident,
Right,
it doesn't
right.
matter if they
Right.
live that area.
right.
All right, that's fine. I'll correct that.
I'm fine with number one.
Moving
but-
forward with that.
Yes, absolutely.
For the second meeting in October, and we'll so note adding neighborhood to that information piece as well.
Very good.
Okay, great. The second item is authorizing supervisor to sign an intermunicipal cooperative agreement to continue the Irondequoit Bay Coordinating Committee. Mr. Costello, this has been
His life
two-thirds
work.
of your
Congratulations.
career.
Yeah, thanks. This is probably about the fourth or fifth time we've signed this agreement. It's obviously just an extension to the previous agreement, which you signed in 2010. This one will go to 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And it's with Webster and Arondequoit?
And yes,
So it's
the
10
three towns, and the
years.
county of
Three
Monroe
towns.
also is a signatory
Got
to the
it.
agreement.
Okay.
Okay, we will, we'll do that, and
Great.
thank you for that update. I would, before we move on, that's all of the items, actionable or informational items. But what I might suggest is we take a look at held items. If I take a look at the Jeremiah's extended outdoor dining hours at 2164 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road, it's been now a number of months that has been there. Jim, I know that you've had some conversations with them. They're looking to hold a couple of what I'll call special, going for a couple of special permits for some different activities consistent with the code.
Correct.
Is this still appropriate to keep on as a held item?
Why don't you do that, and I'll talk to him and find out if he'd like to either continue with it or withdraw it, and we'll make the decision
Okay.
at the next, prior to the next meeting for the
All right.
board.
And then on the Villas of East Hampton, anything new regarding that roadway dedication?
Yes, I talked to Mark this morning. He has to prepare a memo to you explaining the pros and cons, and he's in the process of preparing that, so I would say that would be an issue that will be resolved at the next meeting.
Okay, so maybe at our next work session, there will be an opportunity to move a few of those held items on.
Absolutely.
Okay. There being no further business before the board, the September 9th, 2015 work session stands adjourned at 7:28 p.m.